What kind of chicken is it?
Barred Rock.
Oh.
I just call them stew and taco.
All of them are stew and taco?
And curry.
And curry.
Oh, Homer, located in south-central Alaska on the shores of Katchmack Bay, often referred to as the halibut fishing capital of the world, or alternately a quaint drinking village with a fishing problem. Though the plant nerds around here would say we don't have a fishing problem, but an orange hawkweed problem. The reason why this plant is such a pain is that it outcompetes every other species. It spreads by seeds, rhizomes, and stolons, and it's allelopathic, meaning it releases chemicals that inhibit the growth of other plants. While most non-native species need disturbed ground and full sun to thrive, orange hawkweed happily grows in full shade under dense stands of alder and beneath many taller native species. Eventually, it can displace natives and create its own monoculture. Typical methods of control don't work on orange hawkweed. Mowing keeps it from flowering, but encourages sideways growth. Digging doesn't work well because you're guaranteed to leave fragments of stolons and rhizomes behind, which will resprout. If smothered, say, with a tarp, the tarp needs to be left in place for several years, and new stems can still creep out the sides. Lastly, it can be hard to spot when it's not flowering. Look for a basal rosette that may or may not be covered in obvious white hairs.
And when it was just starting to put out little buds, I flamed it, and you could tell it was black and pinched and falling over, and it still made flowers.
Really?
If you were to just come through and mow and left these on the ground, they still go to seed.
They have enough energy in them to keep.
Yeah.
Wow.
So really the only thing that actually works is chemicals, and a lot of people don't like to use herbicides, so we thought it would be a great opportunity for chickens. And I guess really the inspiration for all this was my own property. I had a big patch of orange hawkweed, and it was like the understory under the beautiful fireweed. So I was like, well, heck, I want to get chickens anyway. Let's put a chicken yard here. And in 2 years, all my orange hawkweed was gone. All the native plants were still there.
Wow.
So that is what inspired this project.
The experiment we're doing right now is attempting to recreate that on a smaller spatial and temporal scale, using 3 tractors, 4 chickens in each, and rotating them at intervals of 2 weeks, 4 weeks, and 1 at 6 weeks, just to see if they can tractor up the orange hawkweed and get rid of it and see what grows back after. Now's a good time to explain what I mean by tractor. In this situation, it means to clear vegetation and loosen topsoil, and it's also a movable chicken coop without a floor.
But why are there chickens in the cemetery?
We chose the cemetery because the vegetation is fairly consistently 90% orange hawkweed, with a few other species mixed in. And it's flat, which makes tractor setup easy. Also, it's managed by the city, who has an active interest in managing invasive plants and often works with the Soil and Water Conservation District on various projects. We got the whole Homer Soil and Water gang together to help set up the site. We laid out a grid 16 by 32 feet, divided into 16 plots, each the size of a chicken tractor. This allowed for moving the tractors on a predetermined schedule and having a section of undisturbed ground for control. We put flagging around the area so the lawn mowing crew would know what area to avoid, and we put a sign on a tractor and one just outside the study area explaining the project and providing our contact information. Once the grid was set up, we recorded the species and percent cover in each plot to get a baseline. Hey Patrick, do you want to tell me about your chicken tractor design?
Sure. So a couple features on the chicken tractors. Starting at the ground, this bottom board, I chose a cedar as a naturally rot-resistant board. Treated lumber would work okay as well, but this is a non-toxic alternative. And while it costs triple the price of a regular 2x4, we're only talking 3 8-foot boards there. And so coming up from there, we've got these vertical, what we call rafters in this A-frame style design, making both the wall and the roof. And I chose a 1x4 for those. The idea being that they're half the weight of a 2x4. And in terms of the size, I went with a 8-foot length and just under 4 feet, including the wheels and tires. So it fits in the wheel wells of any pickup truck or with the tailgate down in a short bed truck. So it fits pretty well. We got one end opening just simple hinges here. That could have been made a little beefier so you could actually step on it. But it's again, overall lightweight was my driving MO here. And so you get in there, you can hang your water, you can hang your feed from the main ridge here. Halfway down, you've got a nice roost for the chickens. So it's mostly chicken mesh. And then on the second half, they've got rain and wind protection. I use these polycarbonate sun tough panels. Pretty forgiving, pretty easy to cut with a razor knife. Pretty durable, will shed snow nicely. That again is part of the roof and steep sort of A-frame design. So this was made to just give them a little wind and rain protection, but not be so hot that they'd actually cook in there. We didn't want to cook the chickens, at least not yet. So good ventilation and through the ridge as well. Left this a little bit long because it makes a nice handle for mobility. And then perhaps the last feature to show is the wheel design. And I kind of modified this from something I got on the internet. But the idea is that this just drops down to ground level, as simple as that. Or then you just grab it and put it up into gear to be mobile.
Runners, take your marks. Get set, go!
Another day, we got the trail cam set up so we could keep an eye on the hens. Plus, waterers and feeders were hung up in each tractor.
What do you think of this chicken tractor project?
I am excited about it. I think that it'll work out pretty well. Chickens definitely like to destroy things. Hopefully they like to destroy the orange hawkweed too. I've seen chickens definitely kill dandelion out of yards, so I think I have high hopes.
We put the word out that we were looking for retired hens, that is, birds that weren't laying eggs anymore. We were fortunate to get all 12 from the same farm, thanks to our generous hen donor who wishes to remain anonymous. Chickens sure sound funny when you speed up their squawks.
But what about bears?
No, so there was a little bit of concern, so I put a trail cam on that shed over there, just in case we lost a chicken. But we didn't lose any of the chickens. Yeah, we thought dogs would be the primary culprit, possibly bears, but not really. We didn't see any anyway. We have a couple sandhill cranes that have been living here, so I got them on the camera more than anything.
Well, this area is fenced to a degree that a lot of properties aren't.
Yeah.
Wilson, I have a very important job for you today. Are you up for it? I want to know if our chicken tractors are predator proof. So we're going to give them the Wilson test. Ready? Come on. Chickens. Go get the chickens. do you think? Are they predator proof? Are you gonna pee on them? I thought you'd be more excited about chickens.
Our chickens were truly never bored.
That's not a thing.
What about any benefits?
As far as I know, I mean, you can't eat it,
Ground
you
cover.
can't smoke it.
Oh, Lordy.
People eat it if they've got nothing else to eat.
Here's the main benefit that is the reason it's a problem is because every person that comes up here, it's the one beautiful standout thing, and you'll see it everywhere. So the northern peninsula has probably doubled in orange hawkweed this last year. It's everywhere. I don't know what was the weather conditions, but if you go somewhere where there's known orange hawkweed and you just drive up to the area, first thing you see is somebody just like you've got right there, taking it home, bringing it with them, walking through it, everything.
Yes, there's a lot of different things we could have studied. We decided to go with duration for the first experiment. So what happened is, well, this is like a control. We didn't have anything here. We started with the 3 chicken tractors here. This one was here for 2 weeks, and then we moved it 2 weeks, 2 weeks, 2 weeks. You get these little signs on each of the plots that you can see. And yeah, I guess my hypothesis was 2 weeks wouldn't be quite long enough to get rid of all the weeds. It did. This was 4 weeks, and then we moved it, and then that was there for 4 weeks. Yeah. So this was chicken for 4 weeks and had 9 weeks to regrow. And you get a couple dandelions. You got things coming in from the sides. Over here I was gonna do 8 weeks, but realized that was just not good for the chickens. It got poopy and stinky and nasty. So this was 6 weeks, and it's now had 7 weeks to regrow. And somehow we got the only like rogue pushki in the whole entire plot. I don't know how that happened, but 6 weeks is really effective. I think that was kind of the take home. That 4 is pretty good. 6 is pushing. It's better, but it's pushing up the chickens' well-being.
I was gonna ask, what were the chickens had left to eat at the end of the 6 weeks?
Nothing. It was just, well, yeah.
Yeah, they
They get pellets. So we were out here every 2 weeks to do a veg inventory, percent cover of each different species. So now that I've got the data from the whole experiment, I've got some graphs printed off. I can show you the graphs, but it does look like.
You don't need graphs.
Yeah.
I don't know that you need graphs.
Well, maybe not, but yeah. Okay.
It's pretty convincing.
It comes back mostly grass and dandelion.
Yeah.
I mean, there's still gonna be a little bit of hawkweed, but in every patch, once we got rid of the hawkweed, the grass and dandelion came back stronger, faster, more plentiful.
It's awesome.
So that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
That's kind of what we wanted to know, if it would. I mean, because it was also entirely possible the chickens would get down to bare ground and then it would just be hawkweed again.
Right.
And then also the chicken poop, all that nitrogen.
Yeah.
I mean, so like this was control, and then it's had the most time to regrow. I'm like, just look how lush that is.
Yeah.
So this one right here was tractored down for 2 weeks, and it's had 2 weeks to regrow. So there's some grass and dandelions and orange hawkweed coming back. And right here, we just moved this tractor after 4 weeks in the same spot, and it looks pretty well destroyed. These guys over here are still working at it. They're going to be the 8-week trial. So we're curious to see what comes back right along the edge.
See the roots, and maybe we'll see.
I see a worm. Also, generally not native in Alaska, but we don't mind. And these guys were just moved again after 2 weeks. So, fresh bare ground. And still A little bit of grass. We had the food and water hanging over this spot, which is why they couldn't fully get in there to destroy it. All right, chickens, say hello.
Hens spend their time eating, foraging, and doing stuff. Roosters,
Not so much.
they want to fight you and you and you the entire time they're in there. And they will they'll peck and eat and stuff, and the ones that do want to do that end up getting bullied. So I started out with a chicken track the same size as the hens, and then I lowered it to about this tall so that they couldn't jump to spur to fight. So now all they can do is stare at each other and chase each other around. And they eat a little bit more, but they are, I think hens would, I mean, whether they're reproductive for eggs laying or not, I think hens would be the only way to go.
So thumbs up on chicken, not so much on rooster tracker.
Not roosters.
Well, also meat birds I've heard don't really.
Yeah.
Meat birds won't
Yep.
scratch them back.
But then you're limited on time unless you let them go longer.
Yeah.
And one other thing that was really interesting to see is the native species that actually hold their own against the non-native common dandelion, fall dandelion, orange hawkweed. So we've got the yarrow and the large-leaf avens. Oh, this guy.
Oh yeah.
So that could also be useful just for restoration projects if we know that those two species can actually compete with all this other mess. That's good stuff.
So are you going to keep an eye on this in the long term?
I think so, yeah, as long as, I mean, at least next spring, I think eventually the city's going to want to mow it. Eventually it might need to be used for what the cemetery is traditionally used for. But I'm sure I could come out here next spring for sure and see what happened.
This project allowed us to find an effective baseline for vegetation removal. 4 weeks at a stocking rate of 4 hens per 24 square feet. But there are so many other things we could study. For example, we could replicate this experiment in a different ecosystem to see if we get the same results. After 4 weeks, we could reseed with different native species to see how well they compete. We could scale up the tractor size and see if the stocking rate is commensurate. We could see if different breeds of hen are equally as effective at vegetation removal. We could compare early season versus late season tractoring. We could try rotational tractoring, where tractors are moved on and off the same plot multiple times in a season. Or collect chicken manure to germinate it in a controlled setting to determine what survives a chicken's digestive tract.
That's what scientists do. We ask too many questions.